Hey everyone, hi. Happy Vesak Day today and happy Sunday. I've had a beautiful Sunday actually. Woke up in the morning, I did my prayers, I did my kind of put on this beautiful Tibetan prayer bowls and the singing bowls as you call it, connect with the music, which I find so much peace in. And I did all my my own detox, so to say, and my own cleanse, of myself to kind of set real intentions for myself, for my soul, for my work, for myself as a woman, and what I do to realign with my purpose, and to ask for support, and to express gratitude for all that has happened in my life for the last so many years. So, happy Sunday, and welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with Ethel Da Costa. Heart to Heart is brought to you in association with the MAC Clinic. As you know, the MAC Clinic is Malaysia's premier aesthetic institution, and I have a great relationship, with the team, with all that the MAC Clinic does and what we do together, collaborating together. A huge shout out to Dr. Hugh for being such a awesome partner, in ensuring that heart-to-heart conversations happen every Sunday with my fantastic guests who come on board with me from different parts of Malaysia and India, and share such rich experiences and information and you know and tools and techniques depending on the topic, with my audiences in making all of us better leaders. And that is why Heart to Heart focuses so much on what I call as creating awesome soul leadership, because I think that's what's important. Titles no longer are relevant in that context. You can be, you can hold and sit on the highest positions and chairs, but it doesn't make a difference if you don't really contribute in a very realistic manner, with the teams that you work with, in your communities that you are part of, and give back in a very holistic manner, from deep inside, how I call it, from your soul energy. And that is why we say, Heart to Heart is all about uh, um, leadership that happens from deep inside, yourself, giving back to communities and societies because you can, and because you have a purpose to. So that is, how Heart to Heart keeps progressing in terms of the topics that I curate every Sunday, and the fantastic guests who I, bring on board to share, as I said, their own knowledge and information. And I am so grateful to all of you on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on my website, etheldacosta.com, who contribute to all that I do, from a very heart space. And the shows are shared. The viewership is very diverse from different parts, of Malaysia as well as India and abroad. And how the kind of feedback that I get from complete strangers. Like, I must share, last Friday I was with this girlfriend of mine in Chinatown, and we were just stepping out onto the street, kind of saying, okay, where do we go next? And suddenly, two or three women just stopped me in the middle of the road, Petaling Street, just bang in the middle of the road, and said, "Hey, aren't you the stiletto foodie?" And I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah." She said, "Your shows are awesome, and we read you, and we love what you do." And we're so happy suddenly in the middle of the road, as at 10 o'clock in the night, we're meeting up with you. There were lots of hugs happening on the middle of on the middle of the street. And I felt like, it was like some sort of affirmation to me, to say, oh my God, I have no clue, who they were, and to kind of know that my work had touched them. You know what I'm saying? And my friend and me kind of also ended up hugging each other, saying, "Yay!" you know, we have to do things that we believe in, because you never know the difference that you're making in somebody's life. So here's to more soul connections. Here's to having very heart to heart, authentic, conversations on my platform. To my all my guests who have been part, of my stories on Heart to Heart, and of course it's a letter foodie, which will start sometime, end of May. for sharing such, their awesome journeys with us too. So, today's topic is very, very interesting because I'm very sure, and all of us know, so let's not kind of beat around the bush, that it is so prevalent, in our lives, in our workspaces, in our home spaces, in our community. Correct? There are different, kind of levels, as I call it, to toxicity. And today we're not talking about toxic relationships. We're talking about toxic feminism, right? Which we think is so much. It's a layer. If you know what I'm saying, it is. Sometimes it's not overtly out there in your face, but if you're very self-aware, you notice it, you feel it, and sometimes you don't know whether you should check it at the time that it happens in, or kind of let it kind of just simmer down somewhere in your subconscious till it finally kind of blows over your head. We know that it is very real, and I have two fantastic guests today who will also share their own experiences, who will also tell us their own stories in terms of toxic femininity, and how they have also dealt with it. What are the tools for it, to kind of to recognize it, to rectify it, to rise above it. So, let me introduce my my close friend. Actually, me and Vanitha don't meet often, but hey, it's 2022, so the promise is to now kind of really meet more in person, and kind of and share. So I'm very happy that I have one of Malaysia's creative maverick, former editor, a PR vigilante, as I call her, Vanitha Krishnasamy. She has been a straight shooter, and she's known in Malaysia to be a very straight shooter when it comes to addressing issues of interpersonal relationships. She has her own show where she kind of she takes very raw conversations, in terms of gender biases, equality, and things like that. And she will join me very, very soon to discuss on today's topic. I also have another very close friend who I met in Malaysia at an author's adda, as you call it in Hindi. Newly minted life coach, poet, author, and educator Shalini Keswani says it as she sees it. Her new journey now as a life coach, I think, gives such a deep, valuable perspective into human relationships and all the complexity and the complicatedness of it all. Shalini kind of just beautifully unveils it, and I quite like how she does it in a very simplified manner, without getting too mental about it. So, welcome, Vanitha and Shalini, on the hot seat with me to discuss toxic femininity. So, let me just get Vanitha online. Vanitha, hey,
Hi,
hey,
Ethel, how are you?
I am great.
Thank
I'm
you.
great.
Thank you for the lovely intro. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, most welcome. And I'm happy that we somehow kind of, organize our timings and schedules, and you are here, and awesome to have you on Heart to Heart with Ethel Da Costa. And as we've spoken on and off, I think it's one of our favorite peeves, if I can say that. I think that's the right word for it, because we experience it and we kind of see it so upfront, in our professional corporate lives and stuff like that.
Mm.
You're very blunt, I'm very blunt too. So let's just dive straight into it. Vanitha, I want to know from you, correct, what is positive femininity and toxic femininity, and where do you see it most at play, and why?
Okay. Well, this is just a personal, a thought of
Hmm.
mine in terms of, because we have so many definitions to being feminine. The whole femininity
Right.
is, so widely spoken about. Everybody has a different interpretation, a definition to it. And I think more so than anything, right now after what's happened in the last 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
the need to kind of pull yourself back and have a look at it is even more rampant, even more necessary right now. I mean,
That's
on the onset, the feminine energy is supposed to be what? You're supposed to be nurturing, kind, caring. That's what the feminine energy is about, right? I mean, the maternal trait, whether you're a
Yes,
mother or
soft.
not. Yeah, the
All the
soft
softness of it.
maternal,
Yeah.
yeah, that one that, that cuddles you and nourishes you and gives you the kind of love and care and protectiveness that you need.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Here is what this is what it is, right? It
Mm,
is
mm,
the definition of how a female the feminine energy should be. Of course, and then there is the other flip side of it, of the whole feminism, right? About what we should get and how we should be treated, and more so, the equality part of things. But over and above all that is the toxic femininity.
mm,
In my personal opinion, a toxic femininity is the policing of femininity.
mm.
I think basically it's to prove your femininity based on the generational destructive patterns. I
Right.
say
Yeah.
destructive here, because of the fact that um, there's a lot of judging and there's a lot of sabotaging, manipulation,
Mm,
wanting you to be submissive and having,
mm,
passive aggressive kind of behaviors, right?
mm, mm.
It's a passed down code of conduct
Generational.
almost. Yeah, it's
Also
almost like a code
generational.
of conduct. Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
passed
Yeah.
down and expected to be a certain way.
Correct.
But yeah, and as the modern woman, here we are, the modern woman in
Mm.
2022. There's a lot of times when we are at crossroads, right? What
Yes.
part do we portray more, or what part do we put forth more?
Mm,
Here we
mm,
are trying to fight for our rights or equality and everything, but then there is this kind of thing, a pressure almost put on us, right?
mm,
To
mm.
behave a certain way, to be a certain way, and to be pigeonholed to be that feminine. So I think
Correct.
a lot of times the toxic femininity really is what we've been taught.
Mm,
I'm
mm.
guilty of that.
Yes.
That's what I've learned. As an Asian Indian woman, living in Malaysia, I've been taught this is the way you should be, this is the way you should talk, this is the way you should behave. But then again, here we are going out there, mingling, being part of different communities, societies, and looking at ourselves and going, no, this is not how I want to be. I want to break this. I want to be my own person. But
Mm, mm.
how far do you go with that? How far
Yes.
do you break with that? That's the thing. So that's that's everything in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, my God, it makes so much of sense because I can also now check myself, of things that I've done too, because as you correctly said, it's generational. It's passed down to you, and you don't know better
Mm,
till you kind of come into some sort of self awareness yourself, right?
mm,
Through your
mm.
own inner work and things that way. And I'm so glad I kind of stepped into that very challenging universe of saying, okay, I think I can do much more better, if you know what I'm saying, right, from a very personal space. So yeah, now I
Absolutely,
look at it.
absolutely.
Yeah, now I look at
Yeah.
it as, oh my God, I could have done so many things the the other way, that kind of, what I'm saying,
Oh my
what
God.
I'm saying.
I look at it all the time. I mean, I think I've had some revelations as well. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
really it's about taking a good hard look at yourself. At the
yeah,
end of the day, we're all guilty,
yes,
at some form of toxicity in our lives, and then
correct,
kind of pulling yourself away and going, listen, I need to do the work. I need to do the hard work. If
yeah,
I don't heal and, from the trauma, we all go
mm,
through different things in our life. We all take
yeah,
on trauma as well. If I don't heal and if I don't look deep within me,
yes,
I'm not going to make things better, and then the next generation and the next generation, you and I have kids, right? We want to
yes,
be able to pass this on to them so that they're able to live their lives more
yeah,
smartly, I would think,
yeah, yeah,
as opposed to how, we had to kind of potter around and, find the right
yeah.
kind of rhythm. Yeah.
Also because they have the tools now. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? It's
mm,
much more discussed openly. It is no longer a taboo.
mm.
So healing and therapy and they don't carry baggage. If you know what I'm saying,
Yep.
society baggage, right? So
Yep.
the kids today are very fortunate that their parents also are talking the same lingo, and
Mm.
actually are encouraging them to kind of also seek help so that they can kind of become better individuals themselves. uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So share with me and with my audiences, your own experiences, confronting with toxic work environments, and how at all point of time, whether we want to, be vocal about it or not, it just walks into our homes as well. Hmm?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, work, it's always been the case, right? Walking into, say, even I've been in PR for so long, walking into a client's brief, for example, and if
Yes.
you're the only female and if you end up getting the job, everyone is kind of
Yes.
going, she probably got the job because of this, this, and this, and
Yeah.
this. I shall not
Yes.
mention all the other, whatever else they say. That's quite explicit,
Yes.
right? Uh, but that's the thing, right? You're walking in there because of your capabilities,
Mm, mm.
of being able to present what you presented. But then, and then a lot of times it's not really the men, it's the females, right? It's the
Yes,
it's the women,
absolutely correct.
women within the community or within, within our circle that kind of go, oh, I don't know, she just got that job because of this and this and this and
Yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah.
and in so many ways trying to sabotage things, we're like, again, sometimes, being in a circle, trying to find your tribe, that is
Mm,
like-minded, it's sometimes a little bit difficult when more so when you have the awareness, right? When you pull yourself back and you create that space for yourself, and do the work that you have to do, the hard work you have to do, suddenly you feel that I am so alone. I have like
mm,
maybe one, maybe two friends left, and everybody else
mm,
is just kind of gone. Where are they?
mm,
So you
mm.
realize that, maybe, they were never meant to be, and your circle now is smaller, and then you have to go, I accept that my circle is smaller,
Correct. Yes.
and you just keep doing what you have to do, right? You don't have a choice. Even with work, right? The
Yeah.
environments at work that I've had to go through a lot, being an Asian woman, being an Indian woman, being in Malaysia,
Right.
trying to break boundaries, trying to break, doors to get opportunities has been quite difficult.
Yes.
And on the top of that, it's not something, easy, when you're trying to, deal with people trying to kind of sabotage all the time. And sometimes
Correct.
I find it is easier to work with men than women, really,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you think so?
I
Did you
second
reckon?
that. Completely second that, because I've in my work life, I think I've seen that too. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Hugely, hugely. And all my mentors and teachers have all been men,
mm,
correct? And very few women, because I think, and you will understand that also, women like us want confident women around us,
mm,
and
mm,
that becomes our tribe, our soul tribe
mm,
eventually.
mm,
Because confident women also step in to become mentors also, Vanitha.
mm.
um, you know um,
We're not forcing
um,
down your worldview. A lot of them
yeah,
become
yeah,
mentors and want
yeah.
to force their worldview on you.
Yes, yes.
I think each to its own. Everybody, as long as you're living your life right,
Correct.
and you're doing the best you can. We all make mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes too. Every
Sure.
day is
Yeah.
a learning process for me. But the tearing down and ganging up and doing those things
Mm.
is something that I find really rampant, actually.
Hmm.
More so now, when you think that you've come out of the crazy 2 years and would be better,
Yes,
but a lot
yes,
of that is still happening. So yeah, I just wish that we can all do better. At the end of the day, if everyone takes responsibility, of their
yes.
actions, because every action has a reaction or a consequence to it. So if we take
Correct.
responsibility, I think that's going to make things a little bit better.
Yeah, that sounds, that sounds very doable.
Mm,
And yeah, and we will have Shalini, coming online very soon to also kind of share how do we kind of, go through this process of taking charge and ensuring that we all have, kind of create like a better, consciously create a better environment around ourselves.
mm.
Why don't you tell me, three tools that you use to ensure that, that you take charge of your own mental health and well-being, as a professional too.
Well, I think firstly, what I do every day is to be grateful.
Mm. Mm.
I get up in the morning, and the very first thing I do, besides doing my usual routine of making my coffee and all that, I sit down and I thank the universe for all the small things the day before. The
Yes.
thing is, a lot of us, go through life and we bicker about life so much because things aren't going our way. But then, listen, there are even the tiniest things that go right on a daily basis. is what you should be thankful for. We
Yes.
forget. We put so much focus into wanting the big things, the things that we really want, and then we
Hmm.
forget to look at all the small things that are happening on a
That,
daily basis to leading us towards it,
yeah.
right?
Also things that we have already,
Mm,
right? Yeah.
mm, mm.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Please
Yeah,
continue.
I know. And then, that's what I do. The first thing I do is to be thankful. The second thing I do is to reframe myself, whenever anything is going on, it is easy to get sucked into, a situation
Hmm.
and to become a slave to your environment. But I pull myself away and I go, okay, I'm going to not waste the rest of my day. I'm going to flip this and I'm going to relook at this and I'm going to, be in a good space to be
Yes.
able to say, what is this teaching me right now? What can I do better for myself? I
Yes.
can't sit here and complain about the things around me because I have no control over it. I can just,
Hmm.
control myself and do the best I can do, you know? And I think lastly is just being kind every day, just the smallest things you can do, just be kind,
Hmm.
even the
Hmm.
little
Hmm.
things that you say to people, right? And even kind to yourself, really. Be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. A lot of us are very hard on ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
just being
Yeah.
kind. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are three things I practice on a daily basis. Small things. Some people want to say, but how to be grateful when things are going so wrong? It's like as good
Hmm.
as brushing your teeth, right? You do that every morning. It's easy to just get up and just, be thankful, right? So, yeah,
Yeah. Correct.
absolutely.
Which is easier said than done, but I think like how you say, and I was going to believe it. The attitude of gratitude is like a habit you have to create, like a over a 21-day period. Like it's like
Yep.
um, because that's what they say, right? You need 21 days to set like a habit, and then
Yeah,
it
make and
becomes
break a habit. Yes, 21 days.
and
Absolutely.
it becomes very
Absolutely.
spontaneous. And I'm sure Shalini is backstage. Let me just get her online. She will have much more to share with us
Looking
on,
forward.
yeah, on how you know, because she's the professional and the expert in the how to do things. So let's just get Shalini online. Shalini, hi there.
Hi, Ethel.
Hi.
I'm having a lot of fun listening to both you fasty ladies out there, and it's
Wow.
awesome.
I'm just
Grateful.
Welcome.
I'm just doing the layman conversation, and now here we have Shalini who's going to give us the expert, insight.
Right.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. Absolutely, day to day thing that
Yeah.
I really do and practice, and so
Shalini,
that's.
welcome. Welcome to this edition of Heart to Heart. We are discussing a very, very familiar topic on toxic femininity, and at all point of time, we all understand that women have all go through. In some flip side, it is women themselves we feel who are hugely responsible to you know what I'm saying, right? To kind of create it for other women too. And whether we want to agree or not, I think it's the truth. So let's just catch the bull by its horns and and address it. Shalini, what according to you, in your professional expertise, because you're a life coach, educator, so you have a different take on on things and tools and techniques and life in general. What is positive femininity and toxic femininity? According to you, and where do you see it most at play?
Um, well, as far as the label is concerned,
Hmm.
these labels, they kind of belong to the realm of researchers and researching community. I
Okay.
would put it that way. First of all, because for me as a life coach, I try to obliterate all labels, and I see people sitting in front of me, a person sitting in front of me as another human being full of potential.
Hmm. Okay.
And also in my life experience, I have, as a person, as an individual, been natural to see individuals more with uh, a positive eye
Okay.
and to give my best energy to situations
Hmm.
and impacted lives in a positive way. So for me, it's difficult to see. And I've seen my mother also, who's a
Okay.
perfect example of positive femininity. If you really want to slot a person,
Hmm.
she's a person who comes with a lot of nurturing and the greatest principles of womanhood. I would say she has lived up to that. to the beauty of being a mother, being kind, generous to a fault in giving. Uh, she has also, kind of manned a lot of responsibilities and, fought for her rights, with the aggression that is necessary for a situation.
Okay.
So, there's been this beautiful blend. So I have seen her as the greatest influence on me, and I've been in that natural space. So I have picked up this word toxic femininity. Actually, I became familiar with just 2 days back, if you honestly ask me. And even before that, women have lived with their fullest expression and not with their fullest expression.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of seeing how before and after this term, this coining of terms, because this coining of terms are very, very limiting in society, in my opinion. So it kind of limits the cognitive and the behavioral aspect, which is, again, that's a whole different debate, because we are different from men physiologically, biologically, and in our neural networks.
Correct.
So our responses are different. And again, this thing can be tied down to three things, 3 A's of acceptance, approval, and attention. So
acceptance, approval, and attention. Okay.
Attention. So anybody working on those things for their survival, that's how things are to different degrees, different varying degrees in their lives. So the amount of attention one is seeking is directly proportional to how you would bring in femininity or not, or kind of pull back from it. Like I see Angela Merkel as the greatest example of a beautiful bridge between being limiting in your capacity as a woman and between, and going to the extreme end.
Okay.
So, or expressing it.
Yeah. Very interesting, huh, Vanitha? Yeah.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Very interesting. But I totally agree with what Shalini is just saying about the fact that, there's a nice balance, right? Everything is about the balance. Anything extreme, is not what we are going after. We want to get that balance, even in our lives, even as a female, the feminine energy, it needs to have a balance, right?
Yes.
I totally agree.
And the 3 A's, I think the 3 A's
are yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Approval, acceptance,
attention, acceptance.
Yeah, and that will determine the degrees of it, right? Yeah. Wow. So Shalini, we come from so India and Southeast Asia, they're almost kind of similar in so many different ways, culturally, family values and traditions and stuff like that. Like I keep telling you, it's time to put the genie in the bottle, so to say, correct? How do we kind of, how do we to ensure like a healthy mind body balance at workplace and at home? Do you have a take on that, Shalini? A professional take on it?
Yeah. First of all, live with the assumption that you are the best. And you're giving the best in every situation.
Okay.
Damn the world.
Yeah.
All right. And also, know thyself, love thyself, be thyself. This is the shortest, simplest way to ensure. I mean, I can expand on it if you like, because knowing oneself, we spend our lives trying to decipher the emotions and the emotional states and the needs and wants of others.
Yes.
We come from that space where we are constantly judging and understanding the needs of others. We don't mostly understand our own self. Our whole being is about, okay, I know this person, I know that person, but I know myself. That's very little. That knowledge is very little. So once we know ourselves, what we want from life, what kind of experience do we want to live, I think that clarity gives us our base for our behavior, our emotions, our actions.
Yes. And
that's the spring belt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because know thyself is the, I think is the entire core pillar of your own life, right? When you know
Absolutely.
yourself, you know exactly what you want, what you don't want, you know how to go and get it, you know what is the journey that you are going to create to walk for yourself, right? And sometimes it can be very intimidating and challenging for other people too, because you know we've always been told that being selfish, as they call it, right, is a very negative word, right, Vanitha? Because yeah,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not
I,
at all.
I, I
yeah,
don't look at it as selfish. I look at it as self-love. It
yeah,
has to be
yeah.
self-love more than it's
We,
selfish, right?
but
I mean,
we know that now. We know that now. But
now, yes,
when you were children, that was what I constantly heard too, and I'm sure both of you have also heard the same thing too. It
absolutely.
just
Always like, you got to give, if you take too much, I'm again, the balance, the give and
yeah,
take balance
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about self-love.
Yes, correct. Yeah, Shalini,
And be yourself. Don't
correct.
make apologies about being yourself, whether you are wearing tons of makeup or whether it's just an expression. It's
Mm,
Yeah.
just an expression, human expression. It's not toxic, it's not this, it's not that. In my parlance, it's
Hmm.
just a person is being himself or herself
Yeah,
at the
correct.
end of the day.
too many
Yes.
of us are putting labels on everything, right? There's too many
Yeah.
labels and
Absolutely. We
everything.
just
Yeah.
box people into ideologies, and then, what happens? Most people find it hard to get out of those ideologies.
Mm,
Not
Correct.
everybody
mm.
has that spiritual quotient. Not everybody tries to, meditate to get to that level of understanding of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each to its
It
Pigeonholes.
own.
requires a lot of
Everyone
work.
should be just allowed to live their lives the best way possible. I
Absolutely.
think, like, again, it's such a thing about wanting, that want. Everyone wants the want. It's at some point, the want needs to be turned into something that's positive as opposed to it being not negative, right?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Shalini, I love what you're saying, correct, and I completely resonate with it. Also because as I said, I understand the space because I also personally and professionally walk that space. Give us three tools to ensure that we take charge of our own mental health and well-being. And to all my listeners out there, I hope you're tuned in and you're listening. And if not, please watch the show later on, because this is so important for us to to self-empower ourselves, also to kind of ensure that the young ones who are in our care to also have support systems. Yes, three tools. Shalini.
Uh, I would say know thyself, know thyself, know thyself. Those are the three ultimate tools. They are the crux of everything, they are the core of everything. They just, I mean, find your own journey and just
Yeah,
walk on that path and just be focused on that path. And no apologies about having walked on that path.
I love
So
that,
far,
Vanita.
it's
She just makes it so simple.
Very simple, right? Here I am, spewing out
Yeah,
things to just know
yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
know thyself.
yeah.
Perfect, right? I think,
Correct.
it'd be so amazing if we all had, like, the peripheral view of doing things, right? We just kind of just focus, just again, like you said, the moment you know yourself, you know what you want and which
Hmm.
direction you want to go, it's just going to be just walking that path and just moving with it, regardless of what's being thrown at you or what situation arises, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And as long as in a good place, every morning you get up and you feel good.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
absolutely.
And today I have in this conversation that I was having with a friend of mine, I think being soft and being strong is such a beautiful combination, huh?
Mm, mm,
Shalini, correct? Yeah,
mm.
and that is it takes a lot of work, huh, to get to that
Essence.
space, right? Yeah,
Yes,
because you know exactly when you need to be soft, because you're consciously now aware, and when you need to be also strong, because it is required of that sort, and then to bring both these energies into balance, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
that's
yin and the
absolutely.
yang.
that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
I think
Seeing and
more so the quiet confidence, right? Having that quiet confidence. You don't have to
Absolutely.
always, yeah, you don't
You
have to
nailed it,
always be,
Vanitha.
yeah,
loud and big and everything, just a quiet confidence. You're confident, yet you know your place. You know
yeah,
when to say what you have to say. And most of the
correct.
time, you don't have to have the last word. You don't have to say anything, it just doesn't matter.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm constantly checking myself on the last word, by the way, because I think it's the old habits, when in our work life we always have to have the last word.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of now checking myself consciously, saying, okay, it's completely fine. It's
Yeah.
completely fine.
It's fine. It's
It's
fine,
not personal. It's not personal at all. You don't have to validate anything. Just do your thing, and go home. In that
Do
sense,
your
right?
thing with the
Yeah,
heart.
yeah, yes. By being
Just
fully present at that
by
particular
being
moment,
Yep.
fully present.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
To everything
That's
you're
the
doing.
other thing, right? That's the other thing. A lot of us forget to be present. We are living so much up in our heads. I always say,
yes,
we need to spring clean our heads occasionally. Get rid of
yeah,
all the
yeah,
clutter in there. And keep
yes,
it simple. Keep it
yeah.
simple.
Keep it simple too, seriously. And we have, I think Claire is online. Claire says she's completely agrees with our conversation, and she puts like a heart emoji. Claire, thank you so much. If you're online, please continue to watch because we have so much more that we're discussing. And I think the more people kind of resonate, the better our own inner circles and outer circles and communities happen. It's like a ripple effect, as we call it. We have our gentleman waiting here. Dr. Hugh is here backstage with me, and I'm going to get him online. He's such a fantastic human being. Vanitha has already met him, at one of my Selector Foodie soirees, which also will start happening very soon. But Dr. Hugh always has a spin on things that we do on Heart to Heart. So let me just bring him online and introduce him to Shalini as well. Dr. Hugh.
Hi, Ethel. Hi, Shalini, and hi, Vanitha again.
Hi, Dr.
Great
Yu.
to
How are
see you all
you?
and join the conversation again this time.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hugh. How was your Sunday so far?
Okay. Just having a bit of a dinner with my family.
Okay, that is great. So, Dr. Hugh, thank you for joining us. As I was telling both the ladies and my audiences, Heart to Heart is an association with the Mac Clinic, and I'm so grateful for the support that I find from you, with you constantly, to kind of create and co-create together. So today's topic that we're discussing is looking at very upfront and very close, because all of us experience it, have gone through it, on toxic femininity. And Vanitha being a corporate professional, has a viewpoint. Shalini being a life coach also has, a way of kind of how do you tackle it and, co-create safe spaces for yourself. You as a professional yourself, I've seen both your clinics, they're full of women. Uh, yeah, they're full of
Yeah,
women.
the staff and the patients. Yeah, the customers are women. The staff are women.
That's right.
Mainly, administration is all women.
Yes,
Well, my wife helps me out, so she's also a woman.
that
I'm
is true.
surrounded. I'm surrounded.
Yeah, you're surrounded by lovely feminine energy, I'm sure. What according to you makes for a healthy male-female balance at the workplace? And what's your advice to bosses who manage a very sizable female-centric workforce?
I think based on experience, and my experience actually started from quite young, because
Mm,
when I was brought up, my cousins and my relatives, among my cousins, there were very few boys. There were mainly girls. So even from sort of very young age, toddler age, right? I've been mixing around with mainly women and ladies and girls.
mm, mm.
And then I went to a co-ed primary school. At the time, there were a lot of boys' schools and girls' schools, but I went to co-ed primary school, and sort of, we got to mix around, and we sort of discovered, like, boys and girls are different. And I think
Yes.
recognizing this fact, right, is actually
Mm,
probably one of the first steps. First, by the time that people who went to only boys' schools or only girls' schools, they went to secondary school and they started mixing, they had a bit of a culture shock
mm,
when it comes to
mm.
dealing with the opposite sex. And it's actually, and because of these differences, they found that they couldn't understand each other. Women
Right.
tend to be more complex, they're gentle, less aggressive, but they could be aggressive in their own in a passive kind of way, in a gentle kind of way, and you
Right.
need to know how to deal with that. And in my clinic, again, I've been running this clinic since I took over in 2006, so it's about almost 20 years now. And
Mm,
yeah, it's all women. So I think for me, the most important thing is actually understanding that there is a difference, between
right.
how men deal with things and how women deal with things. Women
Correct.
actually, they are a bit more complicated and more complex, and
Mm,
sometimes they have to run through these complexities in their in their heads and in their relationships with
mm,
with
mm.
the other people around them. and eventually it gets sorted out. Whereas men actually, they could end up getting into even worse problems because they're actually more aggressive, and in the end they're thinking about winning and fighting all the time. Or they're very ambitious. So for me, I think it's just two different kinds of ways of looking, but we're all put into the same situation. So to make the best of it, right, it's actually just it's a very good understanding between that there is a difference, and that we can actually work things out. And actually, I do find that there's actually a synergy. It's not a fight between the male and the females. The males are good at certain parts of things. The male kind of staff, and the female have got different things to contribute. So I think it's good. Yeah, and I hear when you were discussing a conversation just now about toxic femininity, and people are just labeling it. I mean, sometimes they get trapped in those kind of labels. So even this toxic femininity, you could say there's also toxic masculinity as well.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
If you take anything too far to any extremes, it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Correct. So for me, it's exactly what Shalini said. You have to know yourself, you have to know the situation, and you need to understand other people as well, and try to see it from their point of view. And for me, if you look at it like very superficially, ladies in a, let's say, organization, they will tend to maybe have a little bit more of like emotional kind of politics. But males, right, is actually more kind of aggression kind of politics. So it's okay. I'm a business person as well as a clinician and a doctor. And I find that we all have to deal with that as well, and in our lives as well, in our private lives as well.
Correct. Yeah. Do you also kind of feel, Dr. Hugh, that especially when we have male bosses, right? Do they kind of how do I call it? Have so leadership. When we're talking about leadership, does it need to be more typical male, or are men ready to kind of explore the softer side of leadership as well? I mean, their own softer side of leadership.
I think they are good, but it really depends on the situation and the organization it is based on. And for me, my clinic, or my organization, has got a lot to do with we have to work things out. We have to work together to achieve something, and to deliver a good result for the patient. So there's no choice. So for me, in my situation, for me to be a good leader, an effective leader, I have to look at both sides, and I have to balance everything, and and understand what's going on. But maybe for an organization, for example, like let's say a big tech company or something like that, it may be a bit different. So I think in terms of leadership, right, this all comes to do with the skills of how the leader adapts to the situation. So I don't think you should we can't generalize and say you need a very hard, more masculine kind of leadership. Women can lead as well. And there are some generalizations. Usually what I see is actually male leaders, males in an organization, right? They tend to be a little bit more. There's a bit more flexibility sometimes, and women maybe because they feel they need to prove something, right? They strive a bit too hard, and sometimes that doesn't work, resonate so well with the rest of the organization, and sometimes they can run into problems. But I think people are figuring all this out themselves. So to be a good and effective leader in any organization, you need to then know how to tackle the situation.
So Shalini would agree then balance is what it's all about. Right, Shalini?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this is okay. Interesting. And that's why I like Dr. Hugh's perspective always, because it's a nice kind of a little kind of a twist to the storyline that happens on Heart to Heart. Since we are talking about the entire topic and stuff like that, and basically male leadership, Dr. Hugh, as we kind of talk about, men also now are very focused on self-care, that is physical and mental too. And the Mac Clinic, of course, deals with all kinds of skincare and aesthetics part of wellness. Share with us today 3 skincare tips towards night skincare routine for men. Usually there's so much of night routine skincare for women. Give us your take on night skincare routine for men.
Men is easier. Men tend to be tend to be less fussy with their skin, and maybe actually they are less obsessed with the skin. I mean, because we have very tough skin. We have thick skin, on the face as well.
Literally
And
sometimes.
it tends to be,
Metaphorically.
it tends to be less sensitive, more oily. I mean, yeah, in all kinds of ways. But it tends to be oilier and also, like I say, it's a bit stronger. So it's actually quite basic. So for men, I would say that, end of the day, usually after a work day, right? Because men don't take care and pamper throughout the day so much, they just leave it as it is. So for men, it's quite simple. The main thing is actually you need to degrease. You need to just reduce the oil on the face, but in a gentle way, not too harsh. Don't use cleanser that's too harsh. Use find a moderate kind of cleanser, and that will serve you well. So that's number one. And number two, probably, just as with women, men also need hydration at night, because otherwise, as we age, right, in the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s, you're gonna find that the skin will age as well. You get more wrinkles and lines. And to preserve it and to actually keep it in good condition, hydration is just as important, for men as well as for women. So the night care, should have a hydrating step. And then lastly, if you want to look at anything anti-aging, right? There's a whole list of ingredients out there. You can always pop by the clinic and they'll give you more information. But basically, things like vitamin C applies to men as well as women. Vitamin C builds collagen and repairs, things that are damaged during the day. And then vitamin A causes a lot of renewal. Things like retinol or retin A or tretinoin, they are all vitamin A derivatives, and they are also applicable and good for men as well. Just that I think, like I say, men tend to place less emphasis on their skin and looks compared to ladies. And so I think for men, just keep it simple so that they can have a simple regimen to follow would be the best. I mean, I don't think men will go and do a 10-step skincare kind of thing with masks and massages and scrubs. I don't think it will work because I've encountered men in my clinic as well, obviously, and simple is best for them.
Yeah, simple is best. Yeah. Which is the KISS, right, Vanitha?
Keep it simple and sweet, or keep it simple and straight. Yeah, but men are simple, so I think they need everything simple anyway.
Yeah, but I think my take to it, not to get too simple so that they don't take you for granted. Once in a while, a bite is good.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And
right, thank you.
Yes, and have a great evening and super dinner. And yes, you've met Shalini now, and we look forward.
Enjoy the long weekend in Malaysia. Have a good rest of the conversation together.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hugh, so much. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ethel. Bye, Shalini. Bye. Bye.
Great. So yeah, that's why I love his perspective, because he always has, like I say, a twist of the plot that Dr. Hugh adds on to it. So Shalini, coming back to you, to kind of also take off on what Dr. Hugh also kind of mentioned, about the dynamics and the power plays. Do you think women are their own best friend or worst enemies? I think we kind of, as I said, we're looking at putting the genie into the bottle, right? Like you said, Do you think that women are their own best friend or worst enemies? What's going on here? What's your advice?
Well, I mean, as far as the women I have experienced in my life, in my professional life, in my personal space, the influencers, they can be a little bit of everything. They can be worst enemies. They can be best friends. Best friends taken to an extreme, worst enemies taken to an extreme, and then a blend of both.
Frenemies.
I mean, you'll find frenemies. You'll find both. So I'm an example of kind of who straddles both worlds. Okay. There have been times where I have put myself literally on the block for the family and kind of literally been dead, working and catering and serving to everybody in the family, keeping everyone happy.
Correct.
But it didn't come from any compulsion, but just the fact that I felt it that way. I mean, in that phase of my life, I just felt it that way. And then now when the self-awareness has grown to such a degree, and my neurons are firing every day, and the self-awareness is going one notch higher every day,
Right.
it becomes a different story, and then you can't pack yourself in.
Correct.
So yes, I have experienced, as a very shy girl, when I was very little, I was very shy but very observant. Then growing into a confident professional and a homemaker, both together, and then now into a space where I just want my space and nothing else, or a little bit of everything
Correct.
as a balance. So it's like it's a nice delicate dance. Sometimes it gets like a tandav of the Shiva, I would say.
Okay.
Where you're kind of in the Rodra roop, and you just want to convey that you are really angry with the world, but you are just going through that thing
Correct.
because you are the nurturer, you are the
Yes.
caregiver, and so you accept that role very willingly, and then that's the other side of you. So it's this self-discovery. There are waves of self-discovery. They keep going up and down, and
Yeah.
so here I am at 48. It takes almost half a century sometimes of living, of lived experience, to be able
Yes.
to know what you want exactly from life. Sometimes people know it at 20. Fantastic.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think, and I'm sure even Vanitha will agree, that it's okay to burn bridges that no longer serve you. Right,
absolutely.
Vanitha?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, just going back to what Shalini just said, I think I started off, she said she was shy and getting, coming into her own. But I think I started off with the whole, Shiva Tandav, in the beginning, everything I had to do very aggressively, everything I had to kind of, go, loggerheads, head on, I started off life like that. But then along the way, you kind of find your balance, you kind of find your rhythm, right? To be able to kind of put yourself out there, and understand, and give yourself perspective as well. Not so much
Correct.
perspective of the situation, but yourself. You need to give
Yes.
yourself perspective as well, and that's very important because the moment you give yourself perspective, and then the situation just becomes easier. And yeah,
Right.
on either side, you meet enemies, you meet friends on a daily basis.
Correct.
Sometimes they say your closest friends become your enemies, and your enemies become your closest friends. It
Right.
happens, right? And
Right.
I think, and that's the magic of life, really. I would like to say that's the magic of life, because you're going to go through this terrains, and be able to, if you don't want to do that, and if you're always going to be in a place of fear, and you're not going to
Yes.
go beyond that, and
Correct.
and go past that, and like I said, do the kind of work on yourself as you're
Yeah.
going past this. The situations are going to pop up all the time, and
Yes.
you can either look at it and go, my life is a mess, or you can look at it
Yeah.
and go, what am I learning from this? What am I
Correct.
getting from this? What's the
Yeah.
take from this? How can I be better? It's not
Yeah.
about changing your environment again. It's about you. What can I
Correct.
do better for
Yeah.
myself? And then I heal and I do better, and I learn from this, and I take the best out of this and move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. You're right. Right.
Yeah,
You're
it's just gonna go. It's just that life, is a lifelong journey, isn't it? Learning journey. They
correct.
say you you
Absolutely.
you learn till the day you die. So why
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
Mm.
Be the student, right? Be teachable, no? Where
Yeah.
somebody,
Absolutely,
where you can be
absolutely,
taught. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah, I like
absolutely.
that. Also, I have this, kind of, which I also shared with Shalini. I've developed this nice technique for myself too. When I'm kind of, wrought with a situation or a circumstance, and and I'm struggling with the answers, right? I sleep over it. I like
Mm,
literally sleep over it.
mm.
Yeah. And suddenly in the morning when I wake up, I have the answer to do exactly what kind of I feel um, deeply kind of settled within, right? And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I do. Whether
Because
it's
we
a
always want to kind of react to everything that's happening, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're that kind of, I don't know, I don't know whether it's a female thing, or it's just generally that, we
No.
always want to have a reaction to everything. But like you said, pull yourself back, sleep on it, get up in the
yeah,
morning, the answers will be there. Yeah.
yeah,
Watch
and
watch it like a movie.
Mm.
So we
yeah,
can detach ourselves from each situation and see it, okay, this is playing, and okay, this is how it goes, and I can kind of see how I fit into it. And
Yep. And
our
you don't
best
have to
life.
always have answers for everything, you know.
No.
Yes.
Sometimes the answers come up straight away. Sometimes they don't at all. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But it's okay, you know.
It's okay.
Yes,
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I think to give yourself permission to say that it's okay,
it's
Yeah,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
That it will
it's okay.
eventually, it
Exactly.
will either play out itself, or you will just know in a very intuitive manner, because I am extremely intuitive,
Mm.
and I just kind of know, and that's exactly what I do, because I know that I'm doing it for myself, because I need to take care of myself first in that way, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Shalini says, "Know thyself, know thyself, know thyself," my God, I put it into practice.
Going to practice
We
that,
have to
Shalini,
see.
every day. I'm gonna
Yes,
write it down and stick it next to my bed and go,
Yeah,
you know.
that is it.
we
Every
have
time
to
I
watch our energy, where our
Yeah,
energy is going. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah,
very
that's so
important.
good.
Energy
Yep,
is the thing that keeps us alive, keeps us going
yes,
every minute. And
yeah,
if our
absolutely.
good energy is going into some wasteful, kind of experience that we design for ourselves and just
hmm.
reaction based life, then
Hmm.
it's just, I mean, too
It's a
many
waste.
reactions, too much
Yes,
energy wasted there.
Energy
it's
is so
completely a
precious,
waste.
right? It's so
Very
precious.
precious,
Yeah,
very
it's so
precious.
precious. It's so important to keep it and only put it where it needs to go. It should
Yes,
go, you
correct.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
scientifically speaking, our brains, one thought takes up the energy of 4 hours of work.
Mm,
Wow,
One intensive thought,
wow.
which is playing on in our mind, and we live so much in our heads.
mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
we
yeah.
conjure up situations which don't
Hmm.
even exist.
Correct. Yes, yeah,
Yep.
Shalini.
Spring clean
Yeah,
that head, you know. I do that. I do that every month. I kind of spring clean my head, you know. Yeah.
correct. Which brings us nicely to to ask Shalini. So how do you combat the effects of toxic femininity on a day-to-day basis, Shalini?
Well, I mean, as a woman, uh, just do something positive each day so that it counters the impact
Hmm.
of what you encounter in your daily life. Be more of something you want in this world.
Okay.
That's, I think, the best philosophy to kind of just live it.
Hmm.
So if we
Hmm.
impact people positively, and we don't take away from their energy, we give good energy to people. I think if we do more of that, I think everybody does that, it will take care of a lot of things around us in our environment.
So what you're
Mm,
saying is you should do it consciously yourself, correct? Because
Yes.
you have control over your environment, no?
Yes, because
Your own
you have control over your emotions more than anybody else's.
environment. Hmm. 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 Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
that makes sense. That makes
yep.
a lot of sense because, okay, I think I've done things like that. I've kind of handled here and there and diffused a situation, by just telling this other woman, saying, it's okay, just calm down. There's no need for aggression. And she was completely taken back when I said that. It's completely fine, You can tell me something in a peaceful manner. And
Yeah.
then I saw this,
absolutely non-violent communication
yeah,
is
just
again
kind of,
a thing
yeah,
which must be practiced at
yes,
workplace, no
yeah.
matter what.
Otherwise it's so it's so violent, and it is so chaos driven, correct? You're just saying so many things in that when you can just say one thing, and it gets done. You know what I'm saying, Vanita? It is la la
Yep.
la la la. There's so much of words put into it, saying, dude, chill down,
I
whatever.
just I just have no reaction these days. I just don't react at all. You know,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
say poker face.
yeah, poker face. Right.
Your
I have
choice to keep
no
your
re-
energy and peace, your
Yes.
I just
choice.
have no
Yes,
reaction. You go ahead and
absolutely.
do what you want to do. I have no reaction to anything at all, you know?
Yes,
That's the best thing to do.
That's a good one.
absolutely.
That's a good
And
one.
people get worried, people actually get worried when you don't react,
Yes, correct.
when you don't give them food for that, kind of
Yeah. Yeah, fuel, right? The
the
uh,
fuel.
wood
Yes,
wood to
Yes,
the
a
fuel.
few.
Yes,
Yeah,
wood
most
to the
people want
fuel.
fuel. So you just
Yeah.
kind of pull yourself away and say, you know what, you do you, I'll do me, and
Yes.
we'll just live a
Yeah.
happily ever after, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
others watching you will see whoever is kind of having more peace will choose your
Mm.
way, and this is
Yes,
how it
Mm.
propagates.
yes. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's
exactly what you said, Ethel, about embracing your intuition. That's so important,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's one of the innate things about being having the feminine energy, right? Your intuition, just
yes,
embrace it.
yes,
And going back to just quiet confidence, you don't have to have a
yeah.
reaction for everything. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and not to have, and it's okay not to have the last word too.
Yeah. It's all
Not
right.
at
It's
all.
okay. It's okay
It's
to say
okay,
you
yeah,
win, I lose. It's all
yeah,
right.
okay,
Yeah.
that's it, yeah, I hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah, correct. My
Fantastic.
yeah, Vanitha and Shalini, this has been such a such a lovely, engaging heart to heart, because this is exactly what heart to heart is all about, where we kind of
Likewise.
yeah, just take something, make something beautiful out of it, and which kind of, as I said, supports not only us, because I have learned a lot of things just listening to both of you, and I'm sure that our audiences, when they are, when they watch it, also take something from it, right? So I've learned from Shalini today that it's okay to be to not be right all the time. It's
Mm.
the three magic words: know thyself, know thyself, know thyself, and that's about it. And find kind of peace. From Vanitha, what I learned is that it that not everything needs to be personal. It's completely fine, to develop this technique of having a poker face. I'm going to practice that. Uh, and just keep your energy, yeah, center yourself into your energy and into your own peace, correct? And
Mm.
let the storm and the chaos happen.
Yeah.
You have nothing to do with it. You have no part, into it.
The best
Right?
place to be is in the eye of the storm, really. Apparently, that's the
Yes,
most peaceful place to be.
that's true.
if you if you're not the architect of that storm,
Yeah,
it's okay. Let the
yeah,
storm play out.
correct.
It's
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
all
life.
right. It's
yeah.
okay.
Oh my God.
It's
That's,
all
yeah.
good.
That is so
It's all good.
wise. That is very wise. If you're not the architect of that storm, it's completely fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you didn't
Yep.
engender it, then it's totally
Yep.
Yeah.
fine to be
Why?
looking at it.
Yeah.
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 Oh, awesome. Awesome, ladies. Vanitha and Shalini, thank you so much. We've reached our
Thank you,
60-minute mark.
Ethel.
Thank you.
Lovely meeting you.
It's been
Thank
a
you, Vanitha.
Thank you so
fantastic
much, Shalini.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Fantastic
much.
conversation, and
Wonderful meeting.
very insightful, nuggets of wisdom and tools, that both of you have shared. Uh, Claire is still online. There's also Hardeep Singh. Oh, Hardeep Singh Gill is also online. He was saying hi to Dr. Hugh. There's also somebody else. I think Mosa is also online, watching it. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy with what the platform is also doing, because I think like how today on Vesak Day, like how Buddha says, the greatest gift is to find your purpose and then put your heart and soul into it. And I think,
Beautiful.
yeah, and I think that has been my mission ever since media found me. It's a gift, and it's been what 32 years going and strong. That way. So, thank you, ladies. Thank you, Vanitha. Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you,
Shalini.
Ethel.
you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Atul. Thank
Vanitha.
you so
Wonderful
much.
meeting.
Thank you, Shalini.
Thank
Thank you. It
you.
was lovely to meet you too. It was lovely.
And we
Thank
have to
you.
all
Lovely.
meet now
Of course.
offline.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yes.
We have to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All
Definitely.
right. Okay. Cool. Thank you and good night. Thank you so
Good
Good
much.
night.
night.
Thank you.
Good
Bye
night.
bye.
Bye. Bye. And this concludes another fantastic, episode of Heart to Heart with Ethel Da Costa in association with the Mac Clinic. I think we've learned quite a bit today, including myself, about how to kind of, look at it in the eye, how to center myself, be the better person, the higher individual, as we would say, and know that if you're not the architect of the storm, just let it kind of pass by, and you're going to be fine. To my audiences tuning in from wherever that you're tuning in from, thank you so much for being part of this edition of Heart to Heart. Please share the link with people and communities that can benefit from the information and whatever that we've shared today, because that is the purpose. And and these conversations are required today so that true empowerment happens from a very authentic and honest space. So thank you for joining this edition of Heart to Heart. Stay well. If you are on holiday tomorrow because of Vesak Day, peace to you, peace in our homes, peace in our lives, and it makes us the better men and women that we want to be. Have a great, awesome evening and see you next Sunday. Thank you.